On Mother's Day, yes, Mother's Day of all the days of the year, we were getting ready to go to church one day, and Jamison has figured out how to open and shut the back door of our house. So Jamison had opened the door, gone outside, and then closed the door back on his little thumb, and completely almost ripped the thumb, like the tip of the thumb, completely off, like it was dangling. And so I'm going to insert some pictures. I'm warning you, they're pretty graphic, but he's okay now. So I was in the other room getting ready. Brett was putting snacks in a bag to take to church, and all of a sudden I hear this just horrible cry. And it's just one of those that's like, it was like a death cry. And so I run out, and Brett has grabbed Jamison and is running to the sink, and there's just blood dripping everywhere. And I look, and his thumb is literally dangling. Like, just this part of the thumb, not the whole thumb, but. And so I'm freaking out, and we take him to the hospital. The doctor looks at it, they did an x-ray. He didn't break the bone. He pretty much just, like, ripped the fingernail out, and it just pretty much ripped it all off except for the bone. Like, the bone stayed intact. So they put a bandage on it and sent us home. And so the next day I went to change his bandage, and I was like, there is no way that a Band-Aid could fix something like this. So I called and got a second opinion, took him to the doctor, and they're like, yeah, he needs surgery. So he had surgery that next day to sew his thumb back on. And it was so sad. Like, I was just scared to death. It was his first time to ever have anesthesia, but since that's Brett's specialty, what he's going to school for, I was pretty, I was comforted by that, but it was just so sad to see him in his little hospital gown, and just to hand my baby over to some people that I don't even know so he could get better. And oh, I could hear him crying down the hall. And but when they brought him back, he had this huge like casting on his arm. And so they bandaged it up really good, and then they put this big cast splint on there, and then they wrapped it with oh, it was huge. And it hurt too, because he thought it was a weapon, and he thought he could just be like the Hulk and hit anything with it. So he came home and he had that on. He was supposed to have it on for about 2 weeks, and he took it off himself. Like, in his one night at bedtime, he just laid there and just wiggled his arm out of it. So luckily, it had been long enough so the stitches could heal, but he didn't leave it on the whole time. So, but now it's well. His fingernail is about halfway grown out. They were able to save his nail. So they had to stitch his nail back into his nail bed. If they didn't do that, he wouldn't have ever had a fingernail. So they were able to stitch it back in the nail bed and save it. So he's going to have a nail. But it was scary. It was so sad. And now I like freak out every time that I hear a door open. Just like, oh, watch Jamison's fingers. But Jamison, oh my gosh, I don't know if it's just the second child or if it's just Jamison or what, but he thinks that anything Sawyer does, he can do. He jumps off the couch, head first, just anything. So he's very accident prone. But he's okay now, but it was scary. So out of curiosity, has that ever happened to any of y'all? Have your kids just crushed their hand in a door and had to have surgery on it? How common does that happen? I don't really know. I never did it growing up, and I don't think any of my siblings did, but I don't know. So maybe you have. I don't know. So anyways, see you later.